Gratitude, boy. Gratitude, boy. Islam, Morris. Islam. How's everyone on the holy night? Praise. Y'all sound tired or something. Y'all all right? Well. I thought y'all came to work. Islam, I rise, giving all praises to Allah, the Father of the universe, cherisher and sustainer of all the boundless universes. I extend the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. I extend high honors as well to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations. Islam. I extend high honors as well to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These are the 5 highest principles known to man. Islam? Extending high honors as well to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as the constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. Islam? And this is also the flag of our birth. Islam, Moors? Extending honors to the noble Sheik staff, noble Vanguard staff who keep the peace, and giving honors to you, the Ills and Bays, for without you there is no Moorish movement. Islam? How's everyone in this holy night? Everybody good? All is well. Praise Allah, praise Allah. Firstly, before I go into my demonstration, I'd like to give honors to all Moorish Americans who attended our beloved brother Sheik James Barnes Bay's funeral last weekend. Okay, we had to bury one of our elders. He was in a car accident, 68 years old. We had to tend to the right to see our brother back, commit his body to the earth and his spirit and soul back to the higher planes of existence. It's always a powerful thing, as a nationality of people, that when we surround ourselves around certain, milestones. Islam. When you ever notice, anybody know any West Africans? Islam. What nationality, Brother Judge? What nationality of West Africans? Nigerians. Ghanaian. Anyone else? Senegal. Say again? Senegal. Senegal? Okay. If you've hung with them, or you know how they move, you know that they look for any excuse to get together to have a good time. Yep. Right? I mean, you got a raise on your job, birth of a child, death, which the approach is totally different. Yeah. The approach is totally different, Islam, because you have to remember in a lot of these indigenous language, the concept of what we're calling death doesn't exist. Right. That's ancestor. It's older and younger. It's not death. You understand what I'm saying? The European gave us that. Another story, right? So anytime, we have these, these things, we have to come together as a community, right? Because the goal is to show our people who don't have a nationality, who don't have these free national standards and principles, what it is to function as a nation of people. You see what I'm saying? Even the loss of one of our people is a wound to our nation. Islam, Moors? All right. So, praise Allah, that particular celebration was split into 2 days. The first day was the homegoing service, where some elders who were Sheik Barnes Bay's friends that he had known for 50 plus years had drove 600 miles from Baltimore all the way. They actually beat us there to the funeral home, right? Which I was pretty upset at that. But they, got there and, they did a phenomenal job pushing through obvious grief. You know what I'm saying? Because if you know somebody for 50 years, you kind of bind, your spirits bind together. You know what I'm saying? The next day, which I didn't know until I got to the site, that night they drove back to Baltimore and left me to deal with the funeral rites with the family. So, the prophet says, be ready at all times to give an account of thy action. So, so where's the Moor at? Oh, they went back to Baltimore. Islam, Moor, where you at? Oh, Moor, we got back in Baltimore last night. Praise Allah, Moor, walk me through it. What do I need to do? He's my elder, you know what I'm saying? And he walked me through, and I had 2 pillars, mighty pillars right beside me, Sheik Rashid ibn Halim Bey, and, acting Sheik, Brother Raphael Hakeem Bey. And we did a phenomenal job, I think. It was very well received by the family. We asked the family, what their feelings were, because the whole thing is to offer comfort to the family. Islam, Moors? See, as again, having a culture, there's a whole approach with how we do everything. You understand what I'm saying? And this is respect to Christianity, but I've been to several Christian burials before, and a lot of times, a lot of prolonging of grief. You know what I'm saying? Which is not good for the psychological. So, so if you get into our record, the Holy Quran and the Moorish Science Temple of America, we actually have our degrees in here for birth, what you call death, marriage, so on and so forth. It's a very, very powerful pamphlet. Islam? Speaking of which, those who have Qurans with them, I just want to draw from a couple of instructions from chapter 19. parts of, chapter 18. We have an extra Quran for our brother, right? Brother Quran? Sister? We have any more? Grab some. I'll come back to it. Chapter 18, which is entitled The Resurrection of Jesus. Pilate places the Roman seal upon the stone door of the tomb. At midnight, a company of the Silent Brotherhood march about the tomb. The soldiers alarmed. Jesus teaches to the spirits in prison. Early Sunday morning, he rises from the tomb. The soldiers are bribed by the priests to say that the disciples had stolen the body. Instruction 1. The tomb in which they laid the body of the Lord was in a garden rich with flowers, the garden of Salome, and Joseph's home was near. Before the watch, Caiaphas sent a company of priests out to the garden of Salome that they might be assured that Jesus' body was within the tomb. Going back to instruction 1, that Joseph is not Joseph and Mary Joseph. That's Joseph of Arimathea, okay? And Joseph of Arimathea was a brother and a friend of Jesus. And if you understand what brother and friend means in that context, you'll understand the following instructions. Instruction 3, they rolled the stone away. They saw the body there, and they placed the stone again before the door. And Pilate sent his scribe, who placed upon the stone the seal of Rome in such a way that he who moved it would break the seal. To break this Roman seal meant death to him who broke the seal. Let me pause there. All prophets of the great God Allah come to break the Roman seal. In other words, you have a situation where you have a group of people on the planet, it's a very small percentile, who seek to subjugate all of humanity to a particular ideal. And that ideal is usually carnal, right? Because the key is that we have to remember that we were created as divine beings, right? We weren't created as solely material beings, right? Anytime someone can convince you to operate from your carnal self solely or largely and not balance it, get at least a balance between the two, they're setting you up to be your own slaveholder. You understand what I'm saying? All right? So this is what these ones do. Now Allah, or the great God of the universe, known by a plethora of different names, right? I always like to throw out, to the floor when I demonstrate from the side, the fact that in all the annals of history, we were never known as a secular people, right? And all the great empires that we've built, whether it was ancient Sumer or Kemet, Egypt, or ancient Israel or whatever, we always had a mode of government that had the Most High's laws, or the laws of the universal creator, above ourselves. Islam was? Islam. Just trickled all the way down into the U.S. Constitution as inalienable rights. That's another topic, right? Instruction 6, the Jewish soldiers were all sworn to faithfulness, and then the watch began. At midnight, all were well, but suddenly the tomb became a blaze of light, and down the garden walked a troop of white-clad soldiers marched in a single file. If you remember Sheik Barnes Bey's funeral, we came up the middle aisle, all clad in all white. Islam? All right. They came up to the tomb and marched and countermarched before the door. The Jewish soldiers were alert. They thought his friends had come to steal the body of the Nazarene. The captain of the guard cried out to charge. They charged, but not a white-clad soldier fell. They did not even stop. They marched and countermarched among the frightened men. They stood upon the Roman seal. They did not speak. They unsheathed not their swords. It was the Silent Brotherhood. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
So for those of you who've attended Sunday school, here at Moore Science Temple of America, you know that when we get around key 55, what is the name of the first physical man? His name cannot be used except by the rulers of the MST of A. The AC of the MST of A. Key 56, what are the words AC of the MST of A? Adept Chamber of the Moore Science Temple of America, third heaven. Islam?
Islam. So
this was a sacred brotherhood who was set aside to carry out certain missions, right? And these missions weren't talked about in the open. Right, and this is something that we have to get straight as a people, is that we've always had an overt as well as a covert modes to our government, right? Even the European right now has national secrets. That's against national secrecy. Islam. They've even gone to say that the president has what they call, each new president that comes in gets inducted into and gets introduced to the Book of Secrets, which is supposed to be the alleged books of the book containing all of the America's secrets. Some say it's Area 51 and Roswell and whatever, but it's been alleged that this exists. But we know that this is something that they've gotten from our forefathers because we always had an initiation-based system. right? We initiated you in and brought you up in degrees of understanding, right? And the first aspects of your degrees, we had to understand that you had good character. Basic moral, right? Because if you don't have that, if I give you the higher science, what are you going to become? A tyrant. Islam? All right. A couple more instructions. I want to burden the Moors. Instruction 12. The Jewish soldiers fled in fear. They fell upon the ground. They stood apart until the white-clad soldiers marched away, and then the light about the tomb grew dim. Then they returned. The stone was in its place. The seal was not disturbed, and they resumed their march. Instruction 15. Now Jesus did not sleep within the tomb. The body is the manifest of the soul, but the soul is without its manifest. Islam, Moors?
Islam.
Again, we have to remember that your body is a vehicle that you are utilizing to accomplish a particular end on this plane of existence. You are not your body. I don't care how much you're in love with it. Islam? I don't care if through good genetics and working out, you've developed a good form. I don't care if you can lift 400 pounds in the gym and all the kind of stuff. That thing is on loan to you. Islam? That is not you. All right? You know it's not you because if you're a meditative spirit or a meditative type person, you've actually caught yourself looking out of your eyes, which is a whole nother thing. If you don't know what I mean, spend some time with yourself. You might learn some things about yourself that you weren't taught. Islam, Moors? All right? But I just wanted to demonstrate that right there because, until death knocks on your door, it's a foreign thing because we've deluded ourselves. And it's, again, something we've gotten from the European. We think that, we have here in this form forever. So when death shows up, it's like people actually like the surprise. Islam, as though you were promised 80, 90 years. You weren't promised that. You haven't seen anything till you've seen a coffin this big. Baby coffins. Islam? Anyone ever talked to a mortician before? They know the degree of death very well. The two brothers that were at the burial site, I pulled aside and we were sharing degrees back and forth. You know what I'm saying? And, what he's telling to me in a universal language, I know from this Quran. You know what I'm saying? But their vibe is a little detached. You know what I'm saying? Because they see what they call death all the time. And they know exactly what life really is. Islam, Moors? All right? Tonight what I want to go through, my topic is going to be law and order in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Okay? I'd like to draw from some articles written by our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. First, before I do that, I'd like to introduce, we have some visitors in the room. I'd like to draw from an article entitled, Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. So the opening paragraphs, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is, introducing the Moorish Science Temple of America to our people and what this organization stands for, right? Unless you have clear conceptions of the work you're called to do, if you're in an organization, you really won't know what you're supposed to be doing, right? Most of our people are now accustomed to being in a rank and file anything. Everything is just do you.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Feel what you feel, stuff like that. And then when we join organizations, we have problems.
Yes.
Right? You know all about that, brother? Absolutely. Right? So, let's see what our prophet was saying. What he was introducing to us, this article was written in 1928. Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. In connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization, covering its inception, rise, and progress, and of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of at all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization of our posterity, such as obedience to law, respect, loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. Let me pause there. Right? Those are some categories that our people in, the mentality that we're in would, refer to as disenfranchised, right? When our people speak in terms of government, we speak of government in terms of, being third person, like away from ourselves, right? Not realizing, anyone ever read the U.S. Constitution? Anyone? How does it read? Does it read anything like, how does it start? Let's say that. The preamble. The first 3 words are what?
We the people.
We the people. So it doesn't say that the government is the people that sit in those offices. Don't say that, right? Then Article 4, Section 4 says that, this shall be a Republican form of government. That doesn't mean Democrat and Republican. That was before that. Islam, means to go back to. Publicus from Latin means people. Meaning that the power is supposed to go back to the people, in the hands of the people, right? So when the prophet is telling us obedience to law, who is it that's making the laws, right? So you have legislators, right? But who are they working on the behalf of?
Us, supposedly.
Us, the people, supposedly, right? But if you have a situation where the people are not, if you have a situation where the people are not aware of their obligation, right? You're opening a door for tyrants to come in and do what they do, right? So, respectfully, you can't blame Donald Trump for doing what he does. Look at his base. Look at his base. They're not a very constitutionally adept people. And I'm saying that respectfully. I'm not being radical agitating. I'm saying that these people, clearly don't know constitutional law. If they did, they would scale him back. That's why he's breaking from his party. Islam, his party is breaking from him because he's moved what it is to be a Republican way off from what they're accustomed to. Islam, let's move forward. It says, we organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois. What is civics? Civic organization. What is civics? Anyone? Islam, Brother Judge?
That refers to anything having to do with government?
Yes. Brother Akil?
That refers to anything having to do with the art of being a civilian.
That's a little closer. Civics come from the Latin word civitas, C-I-V-I-T-A-S, and civitas means citizen. All right, anything having to do with the, the rights and duties of a citizen. Okay, and that is basically the things the prophet just mentioned: obedience to law, respect, loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. Right? It says we legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois. Write this date down: November 29th, 1926. Now, I've told you before in several other Holy Day meetings that Prophet Noble Drew Ali did everything according to science. Everything he did meant a specific thing, right? When was the Moorish Empire overthrown in Granada, Spain? What was the date?
1481 or 83 or something like that.
Well, that's when it began to begin, because you can actually go back to like 1099. 1099. Okay, we ain't gonna deal with that. But the year 1099, when we were overthrown in Toledo, you could start there. And then from there, because we were fighting each other, right? So we would do stuff like, a Moorish Sultan might hire a European, work with him to overthrow his brother. And then once the brother was overthrown, the European would come and overthrow that one. You see what I'm saying? So all that type of stuff was going on from 1099 all the way up to 1492. But the date was November 29th, 1492. So the prophet comes back and says, we incorporated as a civic organization in the state of Illinois, November 29th, 1926. Right? Meaning, he was utilizing that date to show those, because again, in government, and this is not a general rule, but in government, you have a lot of ones that are oath takers. I'll say that, right? And they're beholden to certain fraternities, sororities, etc. Right? So when you speak, you have to know how to speak in the dark. Islam. So a mastermind is one who knows how to speak in the dark. What I mean by speak in the dark? If I'm trying to speak to my brother and we're of the same alliance, I'll say that. I'm trying to be politically correct there. But I don't want the rest of us to know we have a language that we can go into, right? Which deals with signs and symbols and so on and so forth, right? Noble Drew Ali was such a master because he went to the east and brought it back to the west. It says the name Moorish Temple of Science was changed to Moorish Science Temple of America, May 1928. In accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of State of Illinois. The object of our organization, this is our mission statement. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens, right? A national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples became obvious with the increasing numbers of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. That was 1928. We're all over the country now, right? Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in the Cook County Recorder's Office, Illinois. Why did he change it to a religious organization? We covered last week about the First Amendment. Can anybody tell me some of the rights that are protected under the First Amendment? Say again, freedom of speech. What else?
Religion.
Okay.
Assembly.
What does it say about religion specifically? Remember? Congress shall not do what?
Impose on people, something like that.
Close. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of a religion. So in America, which is an experiment, by the way, set up by your forefathers, by the way, right? There should be no state religion, right? There's a treaty America has with Tripoli. I think it was 1797, right? It says, I forget the article number in there, but it says that in that treaty, it says, the United States of America shall in no way be considered to be a Christian country. They are signatories to a document that states that. So in law, this is not a Christian country. The Europeans would like to have you think that, but it's not. Islam, because according to the First Amendment, they will establish no religion here, okay? What else? What other rights does First Amendment protect?
The right to bear arms.
Right, that's two. That's the Second Amendment, all right?
Freedom of the press.
I see somebody reading the Constitution, okay. What else? Freedom of the press? What else?
Freedom of assembly.
Freedom of assembly, all right? And very important when y'all leaving out.
Freedom of petition.
Petition the government for what?
Grievances.
What about the grievances? Redress of grievances, right? Islam. So all of that is under religious right. Islam Moors? All right? So religious rights in this country are very important to the point of being sacred, right? Which is why religions don't pay tax. Islam Moors?
Islam.
Not to mention that the religious groups were set up before, here in this country, you know, I'm talking 13 colonies era, before the actual government was set up. There were various different religious, you know, groups that came here and set up and were functioning, you know, as, you know, like colonies of Britain, so on and so forth, before, you know, the so-called European founding fathers set up what they set up, right? So when they in 1781 came with the Articles of Confederation, which later came as 1789, the United States of America Constitution, they put into that, or protected in that, in the Bill of Rights, a protection of religion, all right? So the prophet says, inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, we have it as the revealed word of the God Allah. We shall foster the principles of its teachings amongst our members. This is our religious privilege as American citizens under the laws of one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. Now, he mentions two things in there. He mentions the Quran, right? And he mentions the American Constitution. Now, the Quran he's speaking of, which he squares it later, is the Quran of Mecca, the one received by Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, 1400 years ago. Why? Right? Because has anyone ever read the Quran of Mecca? Right? When you read it, you'll see that the Prophet Muhammad received a revelation, or several revelations, alluding to the fact of protecting ones that he referred to as Ahl al-Kitab. Anyone know that phrase? Ahl al-Kitab, which A-H-L-I-L, Kitab, K-I-T-A-A-B, Ahl al-Kitab, which literally means the family of the scriptures. Okay, the root word is Ahl, which is A-H-L in Arabic. It means family. The Arabs translate it as people of the book, because they don't want you to realize that you as a Muslim and sister as a Hebrew Israelite are family. They don't want us to know that. So we have to read our forefathers' tongue to know that, right? So in the Quran of Mecca, it's forbidden for us to sit back and allow, like my sister as a Hebrew Israelite right here, and I know this because we spoke the other day, it's forbidden for us to sit back and allow anything to happen to her or her child. We're to protect her as though she's one of us, because she is one of us. The Quran of Mecca was predicated upon much older laws, the Torah being one of them. Right? So it's a continuation of knowledge and revelation from the Most High, right? So this is why, a lot of great God of the universe ordained Prophet Noble Drew Ali to bring us the Quran, because it was a tool that we could utilize to unite the family instead of separate and segregate the family even further. Islam Moors? Right. And then he mentions the American Constitution, which again, we've gone over before, many, many times, that the American Constitution was not started by the European nations. The Iroquois Confederation, right? Which they refer to as the Great Law of Peace. Right? If you do a Google search on that, the Great Law of Peace was the original constitution on these shores. And it was by the Iroquois Confederation, which by the way was the original United Nations before the Europeans got here. 6 nations, not tribes. 6 nations got together and formed that confederation because they got tired of killing one another. You see what I'm saying? So when the Europeans came, they saw them working together like, how are you all doing this? Right? So William Penn was initiated, who Pennsylvania is named after, was initiated, under the Iroquois Confederation and acted as a scribe, on behalf of the Europeans to teach them government, right? Because remember, all they knew was a monarchy. They lived under a king, right? You can't go from a king to living under a republic without being taught, right? Because what is a monarchy? One leader, his word is law, right? But a republic is power in the hands of the people. So in order to, to make and enforce law, the people have to be educated, right? This is why, settings like this, are divine, because it offers an opportunity for our people to learn a different skill set that they're not being taught. Islam, right? It says the Mohammedan religion is the least appreciated and probably the most misunderstood of the world's great religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Try to understand what Mohammedanism stands for and some of the things it has contributed to the world. And from there, he just goes into a history of the Prophet Muhammad, and then he goes into a demonstration on religion. I just want to read a paragraph there, and then I'll move on. The Prophet says, the Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. I'm jumping ahead for those who are following me. The Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. In the main, the opposition has come from certain Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in terms as something new. Okay? Meaning that the prophet, he's alluding to the fact that Islam had been here. It's not new, right? Whatever the reasons may be for the opposition, the legal right to oppose citizens, individuals, and organizations alike for their religious beliefs does not exist in the United States. Islam wars? All right. For a Supreme Court ruling on that, research the Supreme Court case on Watson versus Jones. Okay. And that's basically showing you that when a religious organization organizes themselves as a body politic, they're basically a government within a government, respectfully. The door of religious freedom made by the American Constitution swings open to all, and people may enter through it and worship as they desire. Without religious freedom, no search for truth would be possible. Without religious freedom, no discovery of truth would be useful. Without religious freedom, religious progress would be checked, and we would no longer march forward toward the nobler life which the future holds for the races of men. Without religious freedom, there would be no inspiration to lift our heads and gaze with fearlessness into the vast beyond, seeking a hope eternal. Islam? So that was the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's position on religion. And if you know law, you know he was drawing from a legal perspective in that. Islam wars?
Islam.
All right. I'd like to draw from another article. This goes into more of our organizational structure. It's like a camelback from our conversation you and I had, Brother Judge. Because again, as we organize in this country, it's key elements that you have to have. If you don't have these elements, you won't be able to organize successfully. Islam? I'm going from the article, drawing from the article entitled, "The Prophet Has Spoken," in the same Moorish literature pamphlet. The Prophet says, and if you'll notice, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is hardest on his leaders, the leadership, okay? Says, all governors and grand sheiks and head officials that guide any body of Moors of any temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Remember we talked about morality in the mystery system? He said, he or she must be of good moral standard and a heart of love, and their works must be of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. They are to imitate the prophet in speech and teaching in any said temple. They must not be under the influence of intoxicating liquors or any other harmful motive that will terminate to become detrimental to the organization. It must not be known that any leader is staying away from home or neglecting his duty at home, or must allow the public to know of their wrongdoings. They must forever live the life of love at home, and it must be known by all the members. They must not speak rash words nor any profane language in the mildest form to any other individual, because a leader without the influence of good works cannot be a leader. And to be a real Moorish leader, you must study the Quran and divine constitution that is handed down unto you by I, the Prophet. And he's talking about this Quran in that instance. Okay? He says, no finance business is to be opened with any group of members of any temple by the governor or the grand sheikh or whosoever in charge without the consultation of the Prophet. All uplifting funds, books are to be issued only through the Prophet because that money is to finance the Moorish movement. Why that was put in there? Because all this was enacted during the 1928 convention. We have an annual convention once a year. And this was during the time when there was, what equates itself to a coup d'etat, an overthrow of government where ones tried to overthrow the Prophet. Okay? And there was a whole process, but it was, a certain amount of money that was embezzled. All right? So the Prophet is addressing this because you only make laws based on incidents that happen. Okay? You're not going to think of everything. Some things are going to come up, then you got to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Islam? He says the head of any temple can, remember this is 1928, the head of any temple can maintain an emergency fund which cannot exceed the amount of from 25 cents to 50 cents a week per member. All public collections and dues also go to the supporting of each said temple and its domestic work. No finance books are to be served in any temple except by the Prophet. The head of every temple must by law obey the word of the Prophet, and if any leader or head of any temple fails to obey these laws, embezzlement is his charge and is subject to enforcement of the law by the grand body. The grand body is any official with the prefix of grand in his title. Grand Sheik, Grand Governor, Grand Secretary, Grand Treasurer, so on and so forth, right? And those are national posts. And the penalty may be a fine or a removal from office or placed under a very heavy restriction of the law. Supreme words of the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam? And this, where it says supreme words of the Prophet, this shows this was a setting of the Supreme Grand Council. The Supreme Grand Council, the Moorish Science Temple of America, is our judicial body. They interpret the law of the Prophet. They're the ones that, they interpret what constitutes a violation of the law. Islam? Because our legislative and executive branches are found in Act 1, the Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science of America Divine Constitution and Bylaws, which states the Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet of the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? You'll notice in there you heard make and enforce law. The making of the law is legislative, the enforcing of the law is executive, right? Supreme Grand Council constitutes judicial, that's your three branches of government, which, by the way, the European nations got from the Iroquois. It's ancient, been here, okay? Moving on to the next article, it's called Think This Over, You Moors, right? The Prophet instructs, all sheiks, grand sheiks must prepare for the Prophet before he comes to visit them. Must see to it that all is clean and in perfection as far as comfort is possible. Otherwise, don't arrange to have his presence. The Prophet is bringing to you, because, coming from Negro, black, and colored, you have people that invite people over their house, and their house look any kind of way. Don't clean the bathroom up, living room looking crazy. You can almost smell the stench coming from the door when you knock on it. That's not Moorish. No. Islam. So when when you have a culture, your culture dictates everything about how you do everything that you do, right? So the Prophet is instructing us in international law, really, right? Because if you're going to arrange to have a dignitary to visit you, you have to make sure that all is in perfection. Otherwise, don't arrange to have their presence. Islam, Moors? So one of the things when you proclaim your nationality in the Moorish Science Temple of America, stop being Negro, black, and colored, and proclaim your nationality as Moorish American, one of the things that the Grand Sheik says to you after that, isn't this right, Sister Queen, is we say, welcome home to the family of nations, right? Because the family of nations infers into the international body of nations. Islam, Moors? Of which the United States of America is a part, all right? Moving forward. He says all members should pay from 25 cents to 50 cents a week towards the emergency fund. This fund will increase so that it will soon amount to the grand sum of $1,000. Anyone here ever been in a position where you lost your job? Or know someone who has? Okay. How this is supposed to function is we set finances high, certain finances aside, right? In the 20s, there was, something that became popular known as mutual aid societies, right? Or benevolent societies, right? And they existed, to pool resources, Same thing, West Africans do. They call it susu. Anybody heard susu before? Break down susu, Brother Judge. What is susu? The basics of it. You don't have to get it. All's well, you recognize.
Okay. The basic is a group of people. The number is 7 to 9 people. They get together and they put all their money in what we call a pot. And they rotate the pot. I can't remember if it was quarterly or monthly, or there's a set time limit. Each family is to hold the pot. So whatever's needed, a new suit, a car, whatever, people just pour into it until all the members of that particular collective have received what they needed, and it just goes around.
That's
It's kind of like a very early type of something we would call it, it's something akin to what the lottery is.
Exactly.
But it's more intimate.
Absolutely. So in this country, amongst Asiatics, this was something that had become popular. The Moorish Science Temple of America was birthed during this era, so we have that as well. Islam Moors? It says, that is, if you are loyal Moors. He said the emergency fund goes into the bank. The treasurer will tend to the responsibility of seeing that the money is in the bank. Yes, and under the name of the Moorish Science Temple of America Finance. When needed, act according to the law pertaining to the procedure of performing an emergency act. Now, the prophet is speaking as though we already know this. Because he says act according to the procedure, but he doesn't explain the procedure. Islam Moors? All right, we can get into that later. It says no head of any temple, of any said temple, is to borrow from any member more than $5 to $10 unless by notification of the prophet the necessity of the loan. Why is the prophet saying this? Because we fall out about money. We've always been this way. Since, not always, but Negro, Black, and colored times. In ancient times, some wars were fought over finance as well. All right? So we're seeking to circumvent this. When any said temple desires to purchase property, they must first notify the grand body or the prophet, and it must be purchased under the name Moorish Science Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. An individual name should never be applied. I, Noble Drew Ali, am responsible for all finance, so therefore let I, the prophet, know what is on me. Anybody familiar with the Catholic Church and how they move? Right? You ever notice, and this is a travesty, but it exists. The travesties of justice that go on with them and children. This is a young man in the room. I don't want to damage his ears. But if you notice, when was the last time you seen one of those priests go to prison? No. You don't see it. Why don't you see that? What they do is they move him to another parish.
To do the same thing.
But what is a parish? A parish is a province set up according to ecclesiastical law. Right? So they're operating from their own mode of government. Islam Moors, when they purchase property, they don't use individual names. They purchase it under the name of the cathedral or the Vatican, depending on how large the parcel is. Islam, because all the various cathedrals are subordinate temples of the Grand Major Temple, which there, in the Vatican, what's the smallest country on earth? How big is the Vatican?
12 square miles.
109 square acres. That's it. Y'all familiar with the brother Dr. York and the land he had? The land he had in Eatonton was 476 acres. It was bigger than the Vatican, right? But the Vatican is its own country. The Pope is a head of state. He's not just a religious guy, right? You ever see the various heads of state come and kiss his ring? Islam Moors? Right? So this religious thing is bigger than what you think. Religion is law and law is government, right? Moving forward. He says, and again, if the prophet knew that he wasn't going to be in the body forever, why would he say put the property name and under his name, Noble Drew Ali? What is he telling you to do? You set up a foundation under the name Noble Drew Ali. Islam Moors, and you move according to that. Research how foundations are set up. Research the exempt statuses and so on and so forth. But again, you have to be very moral to know how to deal with that. If not, you'll do harm. Islam? Some of you have slipped drastically, so you'd better lace up your shoes before I get there. Everything, every business transaction or anything pertaining to finance is to be transacted in the name Moorish Science Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. We Moors must maintain a grand treasurer, just as in the days of our forefathers. Then you are a nation. Until then, you are nothing. Islam? So a grand treasurer functions as a national treasurer. You know now your Mexican brothers and sisters are opening banks
Absolutely.
right on Jonesboro Road, right here in Forest Park, El Banco, right? You think if a Mexican goes in there to get a loan from El Banco, that they're going to be turned down like they would be at Bank of America or whatever else, Wachovia or whatever else. Islam Moors? Prefer not a stranger before thy own blood is the code. Islam? All right? So until we have a grand treasurer, we're nothing. All right? He says, the emergency fund is issued by no book, but by an emergency card punched according to contribution, then marked on the book. That is the law, and the law must live. The government is behind me, and I must get behind you, for I must uphold and enforce the law. My mission is to save you Moors. The heads of all temples, grand sheiks, grand sheikesses, must conform to the divine principles, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. They must live the life among the members and be loved even as the prophet is loved. They must not practice the principle of segregation among any group in his or her temple. Let me stop there. Cliques. We got to break them up. We got to break up cliques. You have to love all of your family. And you practice that here first, then go out in the world and do it on a broader scale, right? You get practice with it in here, you can go back and heal some family wounds. How many people, and this is rhetorical, you don't have to answer, do you have cousins they ain't spoke to in years? It could be your mama, father, grandparents, whomever, but you refuse to talk to because you haven't healed from something that took place. Islam, but if you got a nationality and you got free national standards and principles and a divine creed of your forefathers, not no foreign thought. You got the thought of your forefathers, you're supposed to be able to go in and be able to handle that and cure it, right? But you need a place where you can come and get practiced in that. And our babies need to grow up and see how that's carried out. They need to be able to see when two of us fall out, how we deal with that, right? Because amongst our people, what's the thing that, is this not dealt with now so much so that we're killing each other in the streets? Conflict resolution, right? What's the protocol when we fall out? Do our people have one? Or are they left up to their own passions? That definitely does. And it depends what generation you're from too. Our generation, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just putting you, you might be 26. I don't know, brother. But, Brother Akil.
Islam. Protocol, bring it to the temple.
Islam. Praise Allah. Most civilized organizations, they go to whatever like in other words, where do the Jews go? I'm saying Jew, not Hebrew. I'm speaking of the Pale Synagogue, right? And they go to the Rabbi, which y'all say rabbi, right? They go to the Rabbi and he opened up the Tanakh, the Torah, and he might even go into Talmud and Mishnah and all the writings of their priests and their scholars, and they'll find out how to solve the beef. Islam? Now you mean to tell me that the Pale Jews are more civilized than you? When they're mimicking your way of life.
Yes, sir.
Islam Moors?
Islam.
You do realize that as a Moor, you are a Hebrew.
Yes, sir.
You do realize that as a Moor, you do follow the teachings of Jesus. You do realize as a Moor, you follow the teachings of Buddha as well, and Confucius, and Zoroaster, and Lao Tzu, and Orunmila. Islam Moors? I could keep going because we are a universal people. You research your forefathers, we went all over the place and traded secrets and knowledge and spread that knowledge to other lands, far and distant lands. Islam Moors? So we're not, as a Moorish American, we're not saying that you have to pick and choose. We're asking you to be yourself and no one else. Islam Moors? All right. Moving forward, it says, let it be he or she that is head of any temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that if there should come any grievance, here go conflict resolution, right? That cannot be settled by the head, notify the prophet at once. And then that's substituted in the modern day because the prophet's no longer in the form for the grand body. You bring it for the grand body on a national level. Right? It says no member is to attend adept chamber that has not lived a moral and clean life and has not paid his dues, his or her dues or assessments, providing that he or she is working or able. He says cannot consider themselves a true Moor. So in other words, if you have not done the proceeding, you cannot consider yourself a true Moor. He said, but traitors must be excluded from the books after having fair trial by the head of their temple, and that must be sent into the grand body. And all members that are able to subscribe towards the uplifting fund, because it takes finance to uplift a nation. And those that are able and fail to act are not Moors but traitors to their cause and trust and their nation, and are not allowed to share in all the Moorish honors. Let me stop there. In the secular government, if you don't pay your taxes, what happens? Don't act like y'all don't know. Y'all done seen it on TV before. What was they about to do to Jermaine Dupri? What did they do to Red Fox? And who else? Who else died broke? Say again more about this.
Levy.
They come, and that's my resident law student, law graduate. But what they'll do is they actually have a military cats with tactical gear, that will kick your door and come and get that. Islam Wars? Where did they get that from? Y'all thought the European invented that. Sister said levy, right? Sister, does that word sound familiar to you as a Hebrew Israelite? What does it sound like? Levi. Or which, because the V is Yiddish, right? Lawi, right? And Lawi, if you just take the I off at the end, is law. Right? The Levite priests, right? Were the priests, the ones that, kept sacred the law and administered the law. Islam? So the levy, right? They're looking at themselves as the enforcers of the law, right? Under the ancient Moorish Empire, the Sultan had the same squad that if someone was deficient, go and get that, because we can't run the nation without the taxes. Islam? Anybody heard of the Mosque of Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem? Okay, the Dome of the Rock. You ever heard of that before? The masjid, the mosque that sits on that, has a gold dome, correct? The gold dome was actually put together by Sultan Abdul Malik, and what he did was he sent around throughout the empire and asked for the subjects to give gold coins, and he melted all these gold coins enough to build that dome, right? And then you'll look all around the state capitol buildings, all through America. They have what? Right downtown, right on Memorial Drive, gold dome, right? But we'll look at that and think foreign, not thinking us. We don't see us in the government again. Islam? Moving forward, he says, in that sharing in the Moorish honors, what are the Moorish honors? I'm here to tell you that when you're being yourself and no one else, the nations of the earth bear you witness. It's times my wife and I have left, and left Temple, whatever, we might have made a stop somewhere, and we get out the car, see me open the door for her, she get out, and we, I put her on my arm, and we Moorish with her, and we'll walk through, man, people will start bowing. Brother, sister, queen, king, automatically give you that. That's called deference, when you automatically defer. Because on a subconscious level, our people know what that is. The European definitely knows what it is. They ain't got to ask. They know, right? But see, once you start arraying yourself in certain things, then they're going to watch you to see if you are the message that you bring. Or are you a Negro playing dress up? And a lot of times, and in the spirit of my elder, Sheik James Bombay, he said the fez and the turban are beautiful. He said, but don't get hung up on that, because they put the fez and the turban on the monkey and the elephant. Islam? Because that's what they had debased us to, an animal state. Islam? But once you go back and being yourself and no one else, you know what I'm saying? I get foreign nationals all the time that come in and they see it says Moorish American on the sign. And they come in and they look around, and I get a lot of questions about the picture in the front. And they ask me, like, what country is that? I said, Chicago. That's right. I love it. They're like, no, that can't be. I said, go look at the cars in the back. They're like, what year is that? Well, about 1937, 38. Who was that? That's my ancestor. When you ever walk in a foreign establishment, they have pictures of their forefathers up, and you ask them who that is, they say, that's my ancestors. Islam Wars? So it's power in that. Moving forward, and he says, and the penalty is, and he puts a hyphen there, but he doesn't state what the penalty is, because it's up to us to make and enforce law. Islam? He says, it is embezzlement of the faith of our creed. All heads of all temples must observe these laws. Islam Wars? Islam. Any comments, questions, concerns, or statements? I'd like to draw from something really quick. It says, Prophet makes plea to the nation. Very small, couple paragraphs. Prophet says, our divine and national movement stands for the specific grand principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I, the Prophet, am applying to all loyal, faithful Moors, members, and American citizens to help me in my great uplifting acts of uplifting fallen humanity among the Asiatic race and nation. For I have suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. It is the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of this divine and national movement. I know all true American citizens are identified by national descent names to answer and apply to the free national constitution of this free national republic of the United States of America. That is why I'm calling on all true national citizens to help me morally and financially in my great work I'm doing to help this national government. For without a free national name with a descent flag of your forefathers, there is not a national divine title of the government in which we live. This is from your true and divine prophet unto all American and foreign sympathizers. Prophet Noble Drew. Islam Wars? Prophet mentioned several categories there. He mentioned loyal. He mentioned faithful. He mentioned members. He mentioned American citizens. And lastly, he mentioned sympathizers, right? Because ones that will come to assist you in your program, not everybody's ready to commit on a full level, right? Because they might have other affiliations or whatever, right? So you have to create avenues in your building for people to assist you at whatever level they can assist you in. You see what I'm saying? So, a lot of times you want 100% commitment, 100%. That takes a lot. That's a unique individual you're petitioning to that will give their time, their finance, all their energy, their lifeblood energy and everything to that. That's rare. You're not going to find that. However, there are plenty of people like, I can't do all of that, but I can do this, right? The prophet, at the end of that article, he said all American and foreign sympathizers. And at the time of the prophet, it was stated that, if you wanted to visit, Temple Number 1 in Chicago, you had to get there like seriously early because all the front rows would be taken up by foreigners. Turks, Greeks, Japanese, Arabians, so on and so forth, because they saw the value in what he was teaching more than our people, more than the people that he came to. You see what I'm saying? Our people coming in CP time late, falling in, so on and so forth, right? But, the reality of it is that, you have to create avenues for people to come in and assist however they can. Islam Wars? Because it's an evolution process that takes place in learning this information. We all come in a certain way. You know what I'm saying? And we come in with certain stuff on us. Some spirits are lighter than others. Some are more heavier than others. The prophet gives a parable in Al Quran about the broken blades of grass. You know that parable? Where it talks about, the farmer sent out his reapers to go reap in the field. And, they brought back a small harvest. And he said, well, what's up with this harvest? I know it was more than this. He said, well, we didn't get the ones with the broken blades, the ones that were damaged and so on and so forth. He said, well, if you only go and get the ones that weren't broken, well, what will we have, right? So all of us have something that we're dealing with, right? Even these sheiks that you see, right? We all dealing with something, right? But the difference is it's just a dedication thing. You know what I'm saying? I can only speak for myself, is that, if I'm not doing this, if I'm not doing something for my people, my wife can tell you I get severe migraine headaches. So if subconsciously I think I'm not doing enough, I'll come down with one. Or if I think I could have done more, maybe I should have finished that last chapter on that book, but I didn't. I was, whatever. I made an excuse, My subconscious take over and whoop me. I don't need nobody else to whoop me. I'll whoop myself. You understand what I'm saying? To the point where, I've turned my business into the temple. I open it up so Moors can come in. Islam Moors? Islam. Even just creating a business that says Moorish American on it is a paradigm shift because people aren't used to seeing us with nationality in business.
That's right.
Islam? Right across the street there's a building or business. It says Taco. What, Brother Judge, can you say it? Taco, what does it say?
Tacos El Gallo.
Taco El Gallo, right? I honor my Mexican brothers and sisters, right? They got tired of Greyhound hitting them with the, show me your ID, show me this, going up on the price, stuff like that. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna pool our resources. They bought 4 charter buses. Wow. Each one of those charter buses cost $400,000. Islam Wars? Islam. Now you've been here your whole life, speak the language fluently and everything. They'll come from another country, pool their resources. So what do they have that you don't have that enables them to organize their numbers better than you? Unity. And nationality. Because nationality gives you your unity. Islam, last night we opened up the temple for Sister Maxine X from the Nation of Islam. She was doing a business opportunity. It was a travel company. She's offering an opportunity for. It's a very, very phenomenal setup. But they were talking about, when they were explaining the whole setup, they said, well, the Mexicans, was the Mexicans they referenced? They said we're jumping on it, and the ones from the Latinos, they said they're jumping all over it because to them, what you call network marketing, that's what they do naturally, just as a nationality of people, circulating dollars, so they do that anyway. So they'll come in something like this and take it over and corner it, because they understand the principles of it. Us, on the other hand, because of the trauma, anytime money is mentioned, it's an automatic wall of distrust. Think it's a scam. Think it's I'm trying to con you or take some money out your pocket, stuff like that. Which is why, Brother Chairman can bear me witness. It was 13 years when we had this charter here, right? From 2006 to about 19 to the early this year, right? Where I never passed a collection basket, ever. Anything we did, we put our own dollars together and made it happen. I never asked nothing from the people, right? Because of that. Because of that distrust. Because when you go to ask people, everybody holds purse strings and you're going to ask me for something. But it's going to benefit you. Why would you want to be a part of it? Islam, that is part of the Negro mentality. And if we don't change that, right, all that about the schools and all that type of stuff, we cancel it, right? And we just going to be the, it says, Marcus Garvey, and I'm paraphrasing it, but he talks about ignorance carrying the burden, right? And we're the ones that's carrying the burden of everybody else who are operating from principles that our forefathers operated from. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
Right? Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or statements? I'd like to draw from just Acts 7 real quick. I noticed for those who were there at the beginning of the meeting, you heard this already, but I just want to read this to draw something home. Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God, Allah. Islam. That keeping your heart and mind pure with love, Moors, I can't stress enough. One of the first lessons you learn in the Moorish Science Temple of America is learn to love instead of hate, right? I've taught for years that you are adepts of hate. We can recognize hate with our eyes closed, but many of us wouldn't recognize love if it knocked us in the head, right? The unconditional real love. I'm not talking about I love my job and I love my car and I love this gold chain I just bought, right? But we have to get back into that because there's certain, the European throws test models out to see where you're at as a race, right? There was a test model that just took place this weekend, and that was the Amber Geiger decision, the European female that shot the brother in his home, right? Now, there are many different cases that happen, decisions that come down, right? But not all of them get the exposure that one got. Islam, when that decision went forward, I sat back, me and the sheiks, we sat back and watched the different responses from our people. And we understand that we're an emotionally based people. Now we talk about this thing called melanin, right? The olive hue that we have, right? This thing is a living chemical, right? So a lot of times we present ourselves based on the natural reaction of what that would dictate, right? But you're also given a brain as well. And the brain is supposed to control the body, or the mind, I should say. It's supposed to control the brain, which is supposed to control the body. Or I should say the spirit controls the mind, which controls the brain, which controls the body. Islam, Morris? All right? What happens is in open forums like Facebook and Instagram and so on and so forth, when you bark out before the nations of the earth, what you feel, you get classed in a certain box. Islam, Morris? Anybody ever heard the term stoicism? Yes. What does it mean to be stoic? Who are the Stoics? Greeks.
I know they used to use it for samurai. It's the way to not show pain or emotion and just bear with it. Even though your mind might yell something else, your facial expressions, your body language is not real. They can't read it because if you fighting with swords or you going to war, you can't be flinching and you telling yourself.
Islam. That's a good example because, if you're afraid and you're holding a sword, it's just like boxers when they box. The thing that they're looking for is the shoulder twitch. You know what I'm saying? So that once that go, they already know you're about to throw. You see what I'm saying? So, but again, Stoicism can be defined by one single verse in the Quran, Holy Quran, the more sensible, which says, in order to be just, one must learn to hear without the passions, right? So yeah, you might feel a particular thing, but you got to channel that, right? Like in law. Anybody know any lawyers, right? Lawyers are taught in law school that they have to discipline the emotion to formulate, and this is their terms, to formulate what is referred to as a cogent argument, right? And cogent just means a very well constructed and put together argument that is able to see both sides of it, right? So we have a process to go through to get the disciplines that in us because the masses of us are emotional, extremely emotional. A lot of times when we give into that, we mess ourselves up and find out the prisons are full of them. All right? Y'all familiar with the Caucasus Mountains? Y'all heard that term before?
Yes, sir.
What was the Caucasus Mountains really?
A training ground.
Flesh it out a little bit more. It was a penal colony. What you have is prison today, right? This was where ones couldn't control their passions or couldn't obey the law. We would march them thousands of miles up into those mountains, and we had sentinels all the way around to keep them in there, right? Away from humanity. Isn't that what prison is? They lock you up away from humanity. Since you can't control yourself, we're gonna put you in the cell. And we understand that this, the system can be kind of jaded and there's a lot of, innocent brothers and sisters that might be in there, right? But by and large, what I'm talking about, when you give yourself over to your passions and get yourself messed up. Islam? So all of us, you can't name a great leader that came to us that wasn't trying to get us to control that. Anyone is not trying to get us to control that and caters to that is setting you up to get killed, right? And martyrism, right, is not what you think it is, right? In the language of our forefathers in Arabic, one of the languages of our forefathers, the word that they're translating as martyr is the word shaheed, which does not mean martyr, it means witness. It's a different concept. Islam? So there's no honor in, setting yourself up to be killed. How much more great work could Malcolm have done? Right? Because we are aware that Malcolm martyred himself because he gave his security up. Islam? Had he just had the brothers, pat the brothers at the door, them shotguns and handguns wouldn't have got in. True? Right? And it's even said that when the shooters came up, he was at the Rasham, he kind of smiled a little bit. He was ready to go. Right? But the prophet teaches us, he says, while your life is of value to others, it is thy duty to preserve it. Right? So long as people need you, it's your duty to not take unnecessary risk with your life. Islam Morris? All right? So, at this point, what I like to do before I lower the meeting, usually this will be the point where I will read a divine warning. But I would like to call up our beloved chairman, brother Sheik Rashid Ibn Halim Bey. Can I have the bag, the green bag? Islam, what? Very rare is it that you find an individual whom will sacrifice the utmost of their very life to protect the prophet and the movement. When I first met our brother, there's an interesting story into how we met. I can't tell it better than he had y'all all down if he tells the story. But maybe after the meeting you can get into that. But this brother was always a sincere, upright, and genuine individual, right? I've been teaching people long enough to know that that's a rare quality. People generally don't come in that way. People generally come in with ulterior motives. What can I get? The Arabic we say inani ana, which means the I complex, the ego, right? But this brother, he's always coming, with the assistance of, in the spirit of, what can I do? What can I do for the temple? What can I do for the temple? What can I do? So it was a period of time where I had a change in my administration, and I needed somebody to fill a particular void, right? I stayed up most of the night, in meditation and reflection. And the name that kept coming back was Brother Rashid. Brother Rashid, Brother Rashid. People that know me know I'm up at weird hours of the morning. So this morning it was like, I believe it was 4 a.m. He may correct me, but about 4 a.m. and I sent the brother a text because I didn't want to call him and disturb his rest. I said, Islam Moore, I said, I'm going to need you to function as my chairman, right? Could you do me the honor? Paraphrasing. And I believe it was the next day, we spoke and he accepted. And that was 7 years ago. And for 7 years, our brother has faithfully labored in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'm talking about when brothers got incarcerated, he's the one that called me, let me know they got incarcerated. He's the one to go down there, get them out. Somebody pass away, he's the one to give me the message. You name it. All the way down to, like I said earlier in my opening, burials. Brother was right there, always faithful. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali says you have to meet a certain criteria in order to qualify for the name of faithful. Islam? All right. My brother informed me that this is the last month we'll have the pleasure of his presence because our brother's moving away to another state. Islam? Now, I'm not the type of Grand Sheik that will work my brother to the last day because I know he has the type of spirit where he will work to his last day, right? So and also too, I'd like to read something really quick, just a statement, very small. Anybody familiar with the U.S. military general orders?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's your 5th general order? I will not leave my post until properly relieved, right? What does it mean to be properly relieved? Properly relieved means that you don't abandon your post. You don't walk off your post. This Moor has seen coups. He's seen me try to get overthrown by Moors in the temple. Stayed faithful. Islam? So properly relieved means that the one that appointed you says, Islam, or you are properly relieved, meaning that you are with honorable mention relieved from your post. Islam, Moors? All right. So it is at this point that I would like to honorably mention our brother and properly relieve him of the post of chairman, but not properly relieve him of his post as a sheik in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Because this movement, this national and divine movement, this divine and national movement needs such a quality individual as my brother Sheik Rashid Ibn Halim Bey. Islam, Moors? Back in 2015, our brother was duly initiated into the adept chamber of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Third Heaven. But he had to go through certain schools, which is why I held his credentials all this time. So I'd never given him his credentials. So it is at this point I would like to issue our brother his diploma. Well, I can't, because it's Third Heaven and we keep those teachings sacred. I'll just read the header. It is the Third Heaven Diploma for Sheikdom from the Moorish Hall of Learning of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Islam, I would like to present this to you. Right, left face. Islam. I would like to present this to you on behalf of Temple number 19. Your credentials, more when you travel, when you go to New York, right? Because I'm going to call ahead before you get up there. I'm call ahead, put them Grand Sheiks on notice that they got a faithful Sheik coming to them. But you present your credentials, credentials to them more, and let them know. And I'll also accompany this with a letter of good standing, bearing witness to your 7 years of faithful labor in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam, Moor? So on behalf of the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, you are, sir, properly relieved of the post of chairman, but still as Sheik in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Islam. Takbir! 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 Islam, Moor. Praise Allah, Moor. I love. Give our Moor a round of applause. Islam, Moor. As you were, bro. Ooh, that hurt. But I got through it. The reason why I hurt is because it's hard to find good soldiers. Islam, Moors? It's hard to find good soldiers. When you find one, you better hold them close. I kept them more close. I wouldn't send them in certain things until I got to the point where, yeah, he's ready to go. And they sent him out, he rock and roll and represented. It was one point, the turning point. I'm gonna say this and then I'll lower the meeting. Nah, seriously. The thing we teach new sheiks, young sheiks, is you have to find your voice, right? You have to find your voice as a leader, right? Sometimes when we start off, we might be too loud, too forceful. right? Sometimes you might be too soft-spoken, right? Sometimes you might be too lenient. Sometimes you might be whatever, right? However, the turning point where the Moor found his voice, in my humble assessment, I sent the Moor and the Sheiks to, it was a, I believe it was either Marcus Garvey Day or Malcolm X Fest, one of the two. And you remember what I'm talking about, Moor? When the Moor was on the stage? So, you know, I was expecting just to get a report back, right? But somebody streamed it live. You know, somebody was snitching on the brother. Did a Tekashi 6ix9ine on him. And so they live streamed them. So, you know, I just happened to, you know, I'm here at the shop work and I look. I said, listen to the Moor. And nothing but forefathers. Ancient. Like, I mean, the brother was going there. I said, there it go. Right, that's what I've been looking for all these years. And he finally found his voice, right? Because there's a voice we use here, and there's a voice we use when we're speaking to the multitudes. And he went into his multitudes voice. Islam. So, and praise Allah, you know, that's when I knew. I said, okay, he's ready, you know. And there were several other tests and hurdles. And he always, and like I've always taught, even if a Moor stumble, this is going to show you a master right here. Even if a Moor stumbles in his getting up, and in his falling, and in his getting up is a lesson. He's educating. So those that watch know that, oh, when I fall, I can get up too. Islam? So the highest of heights and the lowest of depths I've seen my brother go through. So praise Allah. Islam Moors? You know, and I'm looking for more soldiers. Islam? But the Moor can tell you, it's a long walk. This ain't no, I don't make sheiks fast. And the goal in the Moor Science Temple of America is not to become a sheik or sheikah. It's to be faithful. Islam Moors? But if you have that quality of character that we spoke of earlier, then, you know, we'll interview you and we'll see where you're at. And we might possibly be able to use you, utilize you. Use ain't a bad word. It's misuse is the bad word. Islam Moors? All right? You know, so that's pretty much that. And with that, according to our Lord, a meeting with the divine warning. Islam? Islam. Islam? Islam. 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 Moor Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali founder, home office, Chicago, Illinois, March 11th, 1929. A warning from the Prophet to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam? Islam. Islam? Islam. 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 All praise are due to Allah and the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I like to say from the spirit of announcements, we also had another Moorish American elder that passed away. Moorish movement has been around for 100 years. Our elders are getting up out of here and leaving us with this movement. Islam?
Yes, sir.
And we have to do just like they did and be faithful to the cause. Islam? Islam. All right. I just want to get the sister's name for the Moors. I don't want to misquote. Yes, right here. Says, today we give honors to Sister Margaret Thompson Bay, Grand Sheikess, Grand Governess. Pictures here in the center, who passed form today. This was yesterday. One day after her 82nd birthday. She studied directly under Sheik Timothy Dingle-El. That's how the Baltimore crew. So this is from the 50s, between the 50s and 70s. And at one time assumed a position in his temple as Sunday school teacher for the children. Later on, she began to work closely with Brother Jerome Grand Bay, Supreme Grand Governor, and continued her work until her transition. She was and still is the Grand Matriarch of the Moorish Science Temple of America in Durham, specifically the Federation Moorish Science Temple of America as a whole. To us, she will forever be Mother Love. Islam. And you know, this is a smaller picture, but this is our sister right there in the middle. More by this. And we'll put the picture up for the video. All right. So praise Allah, 82. Islam Moors. All right. Also, too, we have the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's birthday is January 8th. We will be observing that on January 5th, which is a Sunday. Islam. We will be holding it at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center downtown on Hilliard Street. So it's between, Hilliard Street is between Edgewood Avenue and Decatur Street. So it's between there if you're familiar with the area. Not too far from King Memorial train station. All right. We put the down payment down for the building. All right. So that's already secured. We're in the process of getting the food together and, you know, DJs, we're gonna blow it out. So we want speakers from, you know what I'm saying, from various different perspectives, demonstrating on unity, you know, so on and so forth. You know, so we want everybody to come out. Tickets will be available, and we want the Moors to come together to help to push these tickets. Islam, because it's we consider one of our high holy days every year. Islam, and like I said, so at certain times where the Moorish Americans should always be present, you know, and the Prophet's birthright, which you will see, is definitely one of them. Islam. All right, that's that. And relative to charity Moors, I'm just going to defer to you all's honor that after the meeting, after the prayer is lowered, to just see our secretary over there and just make a contribution in the basket. Islam Moors? Islam. All right. And again, giving honor to my beloved brother Sheik Rashid. We're gonna be brothers forever. But again, honoring the work that our brother's done. Islam. See, we like to give our people their flowers while they're alive. You know, says the Prophet says, when man honors man, he honors Allah. What man does for man, he does for Allah. Islam Moors? So, you know, when such a one is amongst us that's worthy of, like the Prophet said, the Moorish honors, they are to be honored. Islam Moors? All right? So all praise is due to Allah. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or statements? We have some, not so new faces, but new faces. And my brother Kareem, anyone? Y'all look like y'all at peace. Praise Allah for you Muslims. Islam. Everyone please rise, face the east, which is right ahead of us. Hold your feet at a 45-degree angle, standing on your square. Your heels will be touching like this. Raise 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Invoking the sacred presence of the 7 Elohim that created everything that ever was, is, or evermore to be. For our visitors, please adopt a position of prayer that is comfortable for you in giving homage to our collective creator. Please repeat after me. Allah, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night, and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam Moors. Praise Allah. Brother man.
Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Hayya